The cave had been hidden for 3,000 years beneath the mountain that the locals called the Sleeping Giant. Elena Vance had found it by accident while running from Imperial soldiers who wanted her dead. She was a sorceress, one of the last humans who could wield magic in a galaxy ruled by the Velrith Empire. The Velrith were tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms. They believed magic belonged only to their kind. Humans were supposed to be servants, workers, and nothing more. Elena pressed her back against the cold stone wall inside the cave. Her breath came fast and hard. Outside, she could hear the Velrith soldiers calling to each other. Their voices echoed across the mountain. She needed to go deeper into the cave. She needed to hide until they gave up. She whispered a small light spell. A tiny ball of golden light appeared above her palm. It was weak, barely enough to see 10 feet ahead. That was all the magic she had left. Using too much would alert the Velrith sensors. They had technology that could detect magical energy from miles away. Elena moved deeper into the cave. The walls became smoother as she walked. This was not natural stone. Someone had carved these tunnels a long time ago. She ran her fingers along the wall and felt ancient symbols beneath the dust. They were human symbols. Old human writing from before the Velrith came to Earth and took everything. The tunnel opened into a large chamber. Elena stopped and stared. In the center of the chamber sat a pedestal made of white marble. On top of the pedestal rested a crystal the size of her fist. It glowed with soft blue light. The glow pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Elena walked toward it carefully. She had heard stories about ancient human artifacts. Before the Velrith invasion, humans had been powerful magic users. They had created objects of incredible power. Most of those objects had been destroyed or stolen. The Velrith feared human magic more than anything else in the universe. She reached out and touched the crystal. The moment her fingers made contact, the blue light exploded outward. Elena felt magic surge through her body like fire. It burned through her blood and filled every part of her being. She screamed and fell to her knees. The golden light ball she had created grew brighter and brighter until it lit up the entire cave system. The power was too much. It was 10 times stronger than anything she had ever felt before. Her body shook as wave after wave of magical energy crashed through her. She tried to release the crystal, but her hand was frozen in place. The magic had locked her grip. Images flooded her mind. She saw ancient humans building great cities that floated in the sky. She saw them creating spells that could move mountains and calm storms. She saw them fighting against darkness that came from the stars. And she saw them hiding their greatest treasures before the Velrith came. The crystal was one of those treasures. It was called the Heart of Amplification. The ancient humans had created it to boost magical power in times of great need. It was meant for warriors and guardians who protected humanity. It was meant for heroes. Elena did not feel like a hero. She felt like she was dying. The surge finally stopped. She collapsed on the cold stone floor with the crystal still clutched in her hand. Her whole body ached. Sweat covered her skin and her clothes were soaked through. She lay there for a long time just breathing. When she finally sat up, she realized something was different. She could feel magic everywhere around her. She could sense the life force of insects in the walls. She could feel the soldiers outside the cave. There were 12 of them, all waiting for her to come out. She could feel the energy of the planet itself flowing beneath her feet. Elena looked at the crystal in her hand. It had stopped glowing so brightly. Now it pulsed gently in rhythm with her own heartbeat. She understood that it had bonded with her. The crystal was part of her now. She stood up slowly. Her legs were weak, but they held her weight. She took a deep breath and tried to create another light ball. What appeared was not a small golden light. A sphere of blazing white fire materialized above her palm. It was the size of a melon, and it was so bright that she had to look away. Elena panicked and tried to extinguish it. The sphere shot forward and blasted into the cave wall. Stone exploded outward. Rocks flew in all directions. A section of the tunnel collapsed behind her with a thunderous roar. She stared at the destruction with wide eyes. That small spell had done all that damage. What would happen if she tried something bigger? The sound brought the Velreth soldiers running. Elena heard them entering the cave. She turned and ran deeper into the tunnels. She did not know where she was going. She just knew she had to get away. A Velreth soldier appeared around the corner ahead of her. He raised his energy weapon and fired. Elena threw up her hands instinctively. A shield of pure magic materialized in front of her. The energy blast hit the shield and bounced back toward the soldier. He dove out of the way just in time. More soldiers came from behind. Elena spun and thrust her palm toward them. She meant to create a small push of force to knock them down. Instead, a wave of raw power exploded from her hand. The soldiers flew backward through the air. They crashed into walls and fell unconscious. Elena looked at her hands in horror. She had never been able to do anything like that before. The crystal had made her powerful beyond anything she could have imagined. But she could not control it. Every spell came out 10 times stronger than she intended. She kept running. The tunnels twisted and turned. More soldiers appeared, and she fought them off with magic that she could barely aim. She broke through walls without meaning to. She created craters in the floor. She set fire to ancient tapestries that had survived for 3,000 years. Finally, she found an exit. Daylight streamed through an opening in the mountain. Elena burst out into the open air and looked around. She was on the other side of the sleeping giant. Below her stretched a valley filled with green trees and a winding river. A Velreth command ship hovered in the sky above the valley. It was a massive vessel bristling with weapons. The ship had come to support the soldiers hunting her. Now it turned its weapons toward her position. Elena knew she should run. She knew she should hide. But something else rose up inside her. It was anger. Centuries of anger that humans had buried deep within their souls. The Velreth had taken their planet. They had enslaved her people. They had killed anyone who showed magical ability. She raised her hands toward the ship. Magic gathered around her in visible streams of blue light. The crystal on her chest pulsed faster and faster. Energy crackled between her fingers like lightning. Elena released the spell. A beam of pure magical force shot up into the sky. It struck the command ship in the center. The shields flickered once and then shattered. The beam cut through the hull like it was paper. The ship broke apart in a massive explosion that lit up the entire valley. Elena fell to her knees. She had used too much power. Her body was burning from the inside. The crystal pulsed against her chest, sending waves of energy through her veins. It was trying to keep her alive, but she could feel herself fading. She thought about her mother who had been killed when Elena was a child. She thought about her father who had died in a Velreth work camp. She thought about all the humans who lived as slaves across the galaxy. They needed hope. They needed someone to show them that humans could still fight back. Elena forced herself to stand. She would not die here. She would learn to control this power. She would master the crystal and use it to free her people. The Velreth had ruled for too long. It was time for humans to take back what was theirs. She took a deep breath and focused on the energy flowing through her. The ancient humans had created this crystal. They had designed it for human magic users. There had to be a way to control it. She just needed to find that way. Elena closed her eyes and reached deep within herself. She searched for the connection between her soul and the crystal. She found it buried beneath layers of fear and doubt. It was a thread of blue light that tied them together. She grabbed that thread and pulled. The wild energy calmed slightly. The burning sensation faded to a warm glow. Elena opened her eyes and saw that the streams of light around her had become more stable. They flowed smoothly instead of crackling chaotically. It was not perfect control. She would need months or years of practice to truly master the crystal, but it was a start. She had taken the first step on a very long journey. More Velrith ships appeared on the horizon. They were coming to investigate the destruction of the command ship. Elena turned and began walking down the mountain. She needed to find other humans. She needed to find other magic users who were hiding from the Empire. Together, they would form an army. Together, they would learn to use the ancient human magic that the Velrith feared so much. Together, they would fight for freedom. The blue crystal pulsed gently against her chest. It seemed to approve of her decision. It had waited 3,000 years for someone to find it. It had waited for a human who was brave enough to carry its power. Elena Vance might not have been a hero when she entered that cave, but she would become one. The galaxy would soon learn why the Velrith had tried so hard to suppress human magic. They would learn why the ancient humans had been feared across the stars. And they would learn that some powers could not be conquered or controlled by tyrants. Elena smiled grimly as she walked into the forest. The struggle to control her new abilities was just beginning. The war to free humanity was just starting. But for the first time in her life, she felt real hope. Humans had been beaten down for centuries. They had been told they were weak and worthless. They had almost forgotten what they truly were. But Elena remembered now. The crystal had shown her the truth. Humans were not weak. They were survivors. They adapted and overcame every challenge. They never gave up even when all hope seemed lost. That was why the Velrith feared them. That was why they had tried so hard to crush human spirit. They had failed. Elena vanished into the trees, carrying the heart of amplification with her. Behind her, the wreckage of the command ship burned in the valley. It was the first victory in a war that would change the galaxy forever. And it had all started with one young sorceress who refused to be a slave. The forest swallowed her up, and she was gone. But her legend was just beginning. Stories would spread across the Empire. Whispers would reach every human slave in every corner of the galaxy. The sorceress with the blue crystal had risen, and nothing would ever be the same again.